Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining this week's edition of the Recruitment Reality Podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Gibbons from Tunstall. Tunstall, one of our clients. You've been with us quite a while now, actually. It's longer than it feels.
I think we're coming up to a year in a few months' time because we did the initial trial and then signed on after that. So I think August a year.
Yeah, summertime join, which is always good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great to watch you use the platform and all of that wonderful stuff. And I'm so glad to have you on the podcast. I know you're very active on LinkedIn, and you've got lots of great advice. In my opinion, I'm sure you'll be more humble, but I think you've got lots of good stuff that other people could definitely learn from. So thanks for coming on. Rather than me do a sort of half-baked introduction to you and to Tunstall, it'd be amazing if you could just give us a very quick overview of the business and I guess kind of where you sit in that business and where you sort of came from to get to this point.
Yeah, no, we'll do. And if I start going too long, you just bring me back down, Woody. So it's fine. But so Tunstall, we're a market leading health and care technology provider. Have our headquarters in the UK with circa 600 people employed in the UK, but we're actually a global business. We operate in 18 countries, market leader in many of those, and have colleagues in Spain, Germany, France, Belgium, Netherlands, across the Nordics, and also in Australia and New Zealand with a global headcount of circa 3,000 people. And just briefly, in terms of what we do, our mission is to enable or empower people to have the choice to live life as independently as they choose, no matter of any disability or illness that they may be obviously challenged with. But and we do that through health and care technology. So I kind of always, 80% of what we do at the moment is hardware on-prem tech solutions, and we are going through actually a period of transformation where we're looking to develop the software as a service offering we have as well. But if I just give a very basic example of the great work we do and how we make the interventions, is that somebody might have one of their, our dongles around their neck with, let's say, our Lifeline V model, and they can press a button, and then through our technology, that then alerts our alarm response center. We have the full managed service, and then our alarm response center will be in touch to follow a 111 style triage call to say, look, did you press it by accident? Did you press it because you wanted to call a family, a friend, or a carer, or is it something more serious where we need to call the police, the fire brigade, or the ambulance? And through that, we make life-saving and life-changing interventions. So we do good, basically, is the way I like to do it. We do good, and it's one of the major reasons why I joined Tunstall. I'd been at my previous company for 10 years. I was happy, good company, good role. But I think you sometimes get to a point in your career where you'd like to make a real difference or add back or give something back to society. And this was the opportunity to do a role that challenged me and enabled me to grow, do something that obviously I knew a lot about as well, but also have that impact, I think that positive impact on society, not just in the UK, but globally. And, we currently impact 5 million people directly, and we hope to increase that greatly. In terms of what I do for Tunstall, I'm the head of talent at Tunstall, so my role is a global role. I'm responsible for talent across the group. Some of that is directly, some of that's through matrix structure and matrix management, and it kind of breaks down into talent acquisition and everything that comes out of that in terms of the attraction, the selection, the onboarding. That obviously all falls under my remit. But then there's also the talent management piece in terms of workforce planning, succession planning, skills gaps analysis, and obviously how we enable colleagues to grow once they're in the business. So continue developing them, because you can hire great talent, but if you don't give them that ability to carry on developing and growing, you'll never let them realize their full potential, but they'll probably end up leaving as well. So that's something that we're focusing on as well to try and improve that area.
Awesome. I think it's one of those brands where unless you're a salesperson, trying to sell something to Tunstall or companies like Tunstall, it's one of those brands where it is actually pretty ubiquitous. Like there's a lot of what you do. Everybody's got a grandparent with a system similar to Tunstall, if not Tunstall, right?
Yeah.
But they never go, I wonder who made that. I guess my first question is kind of like, how does that present itself as a challenge to you from a talent attraction perspective? So it's great that you're doing good and all of that stuff, but like, as I say, it's one of those brands that a lot of people don't know, but probably have seen somewhere at some point. And, once they've seen it and spoken about it, they'll probably start to see it more, like the Toyota Yaris, for example. But you know what I mean? So how much of a challenge is that for you, like becoming a known brand? And then how do you kind of tackle that, getting that message of doing good out there?
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually, because I live 30 miles from the Tunstall head office. And before I was approached about the role, I'd never heard about Tunstall. And it's kind of my job to know about competitors and the larger companies that hire people. So that was a challenge. I think, and I'll come on back to that. But the other challenge is, we're our company name, I think, in the UK is Tunstall Healthcare Limited. So there's sometimes a bit of confusion, I think, from people when they hear about it, say, you do healthcare, you recruit, the care assistants or social workers, which in the UK we don't. In Spain we do to an extent, but that's not because our service is different. We just have bolt-ons in Spain. But so I think the first thing is, and just focusing on the attraction side of it, we have a great product and a great story and a great mission in terms of what we're trying to do. So it's just about getting that out there and making sure that people are aware about that. And to be honest, that's not rocket science. That's just defining what it is that we actually, why is it we do what we do, and then getting that out there into the right channels so that people can see it and read about it. And to be honest, I always think of it and relate it back to like e-commerce and marketing. Generally put, you've got to be out there enough for somebody to read it, because it might take 5 to 10 touch points for them to actually then engage with it and then to find out, oh, that's a company I actually might be really interested in applying for a job, or I've seen this a few times now, I'm going to read that in a bit more detail. And then it's obviously making sure that your job advert or that next part of the content you've bit is hitting home again with that consistent message about the mission we do and what reward somebody would get from us as well, that EVP side of things. But I don't think there's any rocket science to it. It's a simple, consistent message showcasing the great work we do, showcasing the great work our colleagues do, and showcasing what you get in return for coming to work for us in that. But for me, we just didn't shout about it. I think when I joined the business a year ago, we didn't do any posts really about what our colleagues do, the success stories of our colleagues. We weren't really advertising across many channels. We definitely weren't advertising across some of those more niche channels if you wanted to hire your tech colleagues or even your finance, or there's more professional hires. And we've just upped that, but we've also just defined that consistent message about what it is we do, and focusing on we've got our mission, which is empowering people to live life independently. But actually what we do is provide life-saving and life-changing health and care technology and services. And that simple message is very powerful. And the other point you made is the amount of candidates I speak to who initially like, I didn't know a huge amount about Tunstall, but then I've done some research and it sounds really interesting. And then you go into it a bit more and then say, oh, do you know what, my auntie or my granddad or somebody actually used to use that kind of technology, and then they really, really buy into it and engage with it. And that is, in my slightly biased opinion, one of the massive advantages we have against the competition, in that, let's say you came to us to do coding or you came to us to do some accountancy, your input is helping to save and change lives, not just sell another coat or write an algorithm that encourages somebody to do something. You're actively empowering, improving people's quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, that point is so interesting, because I think if you can get the message to the candidate, it's a very easy message to then fall in love with. And a lot of people have been touched by it. I mean, Christmas Day this year, my other half, my wife, her gran had a fall, broke her hip or whatever. It might have been last year or the year before. And exactly using a system, I don't know whether it was Tunstall or not, but using a system like yours, got on the phone to my father-in-law who's at my house, don't worry, we've sorted it, there's an ambulance on the way, all this stuff. And you're like, do you know what, without that, how long would she have been on the floor, waiting? And she absolutely is empowered to stay on her own. One question that I think comes up really consistently about this kind of EVP message, having those 5 different touch points, etc., is who's responsible for that? So is that a talent thing? Is it a marketing thing? Is it marketing should lead that project in terms of to the audience, but talent should give you the message.
Mhm.
Like, how does that dynamic
Yeah.
work in your business?
It's a joint effort, and I'll just give a bit more clarity on that. In that, group marketing are responsible for the brand, so they're responsible for the Tunstall brand. But our point of view on this is the Tunstall brand, in terms of the way we talk to our customers, the way we talk to our colleagues, or the way that we would talk to any potential candidates, the brand shouldn't differ. There's why would our tone of voice differ between that in terms of what we try and do and why we do it? So group marketing, they confirm the brand. We then take that brand, that tone of voice, that identity, and we just translate it into the talent attraction piece. And what that means is that we just get that consistent message in. If you're doing a LinkedIn post, you get that consistent message in, so you're using the same kind of statement that explains why it is we do what we do. You get that in any job advert, and you get that on your careers site. And then if somebody applies, rather than just having an email that says thanks for applying, you say thanks for applying to Tunstall, FYI, here's a bit more. Again, that message is in there again. If you send them an interview confirmation, you've got it in the interview confirmation, links to the website or information about the business, so that you're getting the same message again. And it's that consistent messaging throughout the process at every step that the candidate then engages with, but then everyone externally is seeing that, they start engaging with it. But that's the same message that's going to your customers, and the same message that's going to your internal colleagues, which means you then just get that utopia. We're not there yet. That utopia where obviously everyone, they think Tunstall, they think that's what they do, and it's the same message for everyone.
Well, and I think if you don't have that, and your talent team is, screaming from the rooftops about how amazing the mission is and how amazing it is to work there, and then that theme is not consistent with customer, experience, customer brand, etc., all that's going to happen is the candidate's going to go one step and go, right, I'm going to start doing my interview prep and find out a bit more about the company. And go, hang on, these two things don't go together. Like, this is somebody's selling me at the river here.
Yeah, and the other thing with it is, your colleagues have to be aligned with it, because they're your biggest marketing tool. They're your biggest network. I always say to everyone, when it comes to talent attraction, look, sometimes you have all your different channels you can use: LinkedIn, third-party agencies, job boards, CRM tools, whatever you've got your access to. But actually, if your colleagues who are working in that industry, working in that sector with that skill set, will naturally have a bigger network than anyone else. So if they're bought in to the whole, Tunstall as a brand identity, and they're sharing that information and sharing those roles, that's one of your biggest weapons in talent attraction. It is, and it's always going to be probably the most effective and lead to real quality hires. So I think by having that consistent tone with everyone, the messaging gets out there similarly to everyone. And it's one of the great things in that, there's obviously always areas where you can improve in anything. And are we perfect? No, we're not, because we're on a journey with it. I've only been here a year and there's still a lot of work to do. But one of the things I do know, because we did an employee engagement survey recently, is that everyone within Tunstall is very aligned to what we do. Because, and again, I don't think that's a surprise because of what it is we do, but that's a great tool in our box for talent attraction and that brand identity.
Yeah. And I think conversely, again, like, if you don't treat your employees as your sort of vehicle for positive engagement of candidates, they will more likely be than it's because they're being negative anyway. And then, you're more likely to, I think it's like 9 times more likely to tell somebody not to join a business than to join a business.
Yeah.
So you have to you have to encourage people to talk positively if they're having a positive experience, whereas you don't have to if they're having negative.
Yeah,
so
100%. But they're usually much more happy to get something out there if they've had a negative experience, aren't they? We've got a training that we're doing for our managers soon, which highlights this candidate experience element, but also that onboarding and colleague element is so important in it as well. But I mean, we've obviously, no one's perfect. There's always continuous improvement. There's always areas you can improve, and you need to take that feedback when you get it and take it on board. But there's a real focus internally at Tunstall at the moment to move to almost like a people first, which is the way it should be. Like, people first with everything we do, so that we're putting our people. Because if you have happy colleagues, you'll generally end up with happy customers, which generally means you end up with a happy revenue. So it just it just kind of goes in that nice simple way that if you can get that bit right, it all flows.
Yeah, well, especially in a mission-led business, if people are pulling in the same direction as the mission, then the mission is a self-fulfilling prophecy that it leads to profit. So switching gears slightly, I didn't really ask at the beginning, but what's the kind of biggest challenge that you're facing right now from your sort of talent perspective?
Yeah. To be honest, we run quite a lean. I think like a lot of businesses nowadays, obviously run quite a lean talent team. So one of our challenges is once you get the attraction right, you get the volume of candidates, but then it's managing that and still trying to deliver a great candidate experience. It's like the catch-22. I want more candidates, but crap, I've got loads. How do I handle that and still make sure I'm delivering a good candidate experience? That's always a challenge. And then on the flip side, I mean, I think, as you know, that there's always challenges with hiring in certain areas in terms of finding, the tech skills or the niche elements, but then there's different ways of looking at that as well. But for me, when I came into Tunstall, I think one of the things I noticed was we had a people tech ecosystem, but it wasn't. I don't think we were utilising it all effectively, and it probably wasn't all integrated and talking to each other as much as it should. And recruitment, talent acquisition is a very people orientated side of things, but you cannot manage thousands of applications on a one-to-one basis. As much as you'd love to, you can't, which means you need to use technology to help you deliver that great experience. But when you're using technology, whatever technology you're using, that reflects on you as a brand. So you need to make sure you're integrating it and setting that up right. And again, I don't think it's hugely complex in terms of what you need to do with it to get it right. It's generally the same message. But I think that was something we needed to do. We needed to make sure we were using the right technology at the right time and automating as much as we could, but keeping that personalization there as much as we could to maintain that candidate experience.
Yeah, it's there's two things in that. One is the duality of a TA role now of dealing with absolute scarcity of tech resource, for example, and then on the other side, too many applicants with too little time, and you still want to give them a human and fair, consistent, opportunity to succeed in the process. And how do you leverage technology to actually do that? Is the second part. So it would be good to just know a little bit more about. You said a lot of people say the same stuff, but actually it's probably not entirely true. Like, what is it about where the tech stack was before to where it is now that you think you've really helped transition it into, being an enabler to keep the personal touch whilst also creating efficiency, etc.?
Yeah. Well, if I try and break it down through the journey, I guess. So we'll start at the very first point, which is let's start from where we're posting the adverts and then getting the applications in first of all. So, and then how you put those through the different stages. So we have an applicant tracking system. To be honest, if you don't have an applicant tracking system, you're going to struggle straight off in terms of managing thousands of applications. I'm not sure there's many businesses out there nowadays that don't, but I'm sure there's still some. And it may be if they're only hiring one person a year, that's fine. But generally, you need that. But we weren't utilizing that from the attraction side of things, first of all. So when we were just promoting the role to our careers site and then letting those free organic, Indeed or whatever else was scraping from that do the work. But the ATS obviously has the ability for you to post to multiple different job boards or set up sponsored jobs. And so it's about utilizing that side of things. It was then about, okay, well, what else can we do? So there's the ability to put chatbots or live chat, rather than a chatbot onto the careers site via the ATS. So, okay, that's something we could try and trial as part of a candidate experience to enable maybe a faster response. Now, that's come with its challenges because we need somebody to always be available to answer those. So it comes with its challenges as well. Then it's about the basic tools. Every ATS allows you to build in set automated templates where you get responses or you've got it set up to go, or you can tweak, what you send somebody at different stages. So it's updating those communications. So you're not using the standard one. You're not using thanks for your application, like a real. You just give it the Tunstall flavor, but then you also make sure everyone's getting that response. I mean, I had somebody message me the other day saying, "Thank you for acknowledging my application. I don't always get this," and I'm like, in nowadays world with the technology available, why would anyone not get an email saying thank you for your application? It's just it blows
and managing expectations as well, right? It's like you're going to get 3 times more emails if you accept applications and tell nobody what's going on.
Precisely, and that's a bit, and then you've got the automation. So it's like, okay, well, it differs for different roles, and this is the thing. Like, so it's not one size fits all. But let's just say you've got a high volume role, where you get 500 plus applications for it. Well, I'm not going to be able to review all of those applications to give each one a fair chance of success. So you need to use the automation within the system and say, right, okay, well, let's just double check everything 100%. So let's automate for another comms to go out saying, thanks a lot for your application, but just to double check these core elements of the role and they're all right with you. And then they can say yes or no on a form that's on the email. That triggers them to the next thing. And then what we also then did was we thought, well, we're not doing any assessments as part of the recruitment selection process, which, once you've selected a valid assessment provider, can actually be a valuable asset to identify people that are best suited for you as a company and best suited for the role. So let's automate for that to go out. And then the next stage was obviously then, we used to just go through these and invite people to interview, but then you're kind of plumping it all in certain areas on just what they've written down and, who's the best CV writer or what's the one background we think is the best success rather than basing it on actual behaviors. So we then implemented, that's where we then looked at using on-demand video interviews as that next step. But again, we automated that, but we had a comms before each of those, before the assessments and before the video interview that says that, a bit like you said, managing expectations. Look, this is what's going to happen next. This is what we're looking for. These are the kind of things you're going to be asked. This is what to expect. This is the partner we're using, so expect an email from them. So there's no surprises. And then we also give them the chance to get back in touch with us because you know what? Not everyone's done an assessment before. Not everyone feels comfortable with it. Not everyone's done an on-demand video interview before. Not everyone's comfortable with it. So we want to give them that chance to come back to us and say, look, if you've got any concerns, let us know what they are, because then we can probably answer them and sort that out. So that's something that we put into the system throughout. We, the comms, the tailored, the integrations. We selected a couple more providers, so that we got to a point where actually, rather than out of 500 applications, you were sifting 50, selecting your top 5 for interview, and then getting them in and offering a candidate who, would have been a good candidate, through the interview process. We were actually able to assess 500 and put them through more rigor, which meant that they could actually actively deselect themselves because they're like, do you know what? I'm not sure this role actually is for me. But then we also got to get to potentially a better result at the end of it because we've managed to assess everyone and not base it on any particular one thing. We based it on actually their results based on what we think is best for the role rather than a specific element at the beginning.
It's so interesting because I think, if you speak to candidates quite often when it comes to what we do, so obviously on-demand video, is if you don't set it up right, if you don't have the hang on, something started playing in the background.
It's just like my phone call that just came in there. This is all part of that. This is that authentic element, Woody. This is what this is.
Absolutely. It was another podcast that I'd recorded ages ago, just suddenly decided to play on QuickTime. Anyway, what I was saying was, sometimes candidates will think, oh, it's one-way video, that means they can't be bothered to speak to me, right? So I've never done this before. I'm feeling a bit anxious, so I'm going to go. The defense wall comes up. What people don't realize is, without that kind of one-way video, all that's going to happen is somebody's going to read your CV for 7.5 seconds instead and make a snap judgment like that. Should I ring this person? Should I not? Whereas actually, with a layer of assessment in place and clearly guidelining, and setting expectations through, you're giving somebody more of an opportunity to succeed, not less.
Yeah,
that's the point.
It's a really good point, and it's one of the points we put in the comms to them to explain why we use on-demand video interviews. Because you're right, when I've spoken to candidates, I've used on-demand video interviews for quite a while now, and one of the key points of feedback we always get is, I'm much better in a face-to-face situation. Why can't you see me face-to-face? Everyone would much rather, all candidates would love to just come in and be met face-to-face or do a Teams call, nowadays with that side of things. And that's probably their ideal, if we're being honest. But we put in our email, so look, if we did, basically we say, look, by doing it this way, we're actually enabling you and many others to put forward their skills, experience, behaviors, and why they're right for this role that otherwise we never would have had the chance to consider. So we might have been able to do a Microsoft Teams interview, but do you know what? I might have been able to video interview 200 people, but I would have only been able to Microsoft Teams 20. So you're talking about a kind of scale difference with it, or at least giving 200 people the opportunity to complete a video interview, because obviously some may deselect themselves for that, but we hope we keep that to a minimum through our communications.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that is shifting. But the more stories we can get out of organisations like
Mm.
yourselves who have built in that automation, but I think an important thing about on-demand video, in my opinion, as well, is that it's not a robot that's then watching the videos. It just means that you don't have to schedule a call,
Hmm.
and waste time with
Yep.
emails to and fro.
Yep.
It means that your candidate is committed once you've watched the video,
Yep.
and you know that they're going to turn up for it. There's so many things that
Yeah.
people don't quite understand saves
Yeah.
time in the
And that's the
process.
thing about it, because as you say, the way we kind of explain it is, look, it's an interview. Treat it like an interview. The only difference is I'm not there to physically ask you the question and then take the notes as you answer it, but I will be, or somebody in my team will be reviewing that to then score it like we would an interview. So it is an interview. So
Mm,
treat it as an interview kind of thing, because obviously, luckily, you can do it wherever you want at a time that suits you via any device, which is one of the massive benefits. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's I think we give people the opportunity to get in touch with us if they have any concerns, because that way we can explain to them. So we put it in the email,
mm,
we explain why, but we'll say, look, if you've got any questions about it, please drop us a note, because you know what, we'll come
mm,
back to you. And over time, then that message will get out there. But it's also something that I'm always open to new ways of how we communicate it, or how we offer people the chance to just get used to it. So one of the things we were toying with in our side of things is on our comms out that we send to people, where we give them the information, is we have like a set trial video interview set up, where we just we don't review it, we don't monitor it, but it just gives them a chance to go through the experience first. I know that when they
mm,
go onto the page, they get to see it a bit anyway and get used to it, but this we're actually able to go through a question, test out that
mm.
re-record experience, and that side of things, so they can just get the feel for it, rather than sometimes you're doing it for the first time, you're like, oh, that's me on the screen recording my
Yeah.
answer. That's the biggest bit of
Here
feedback
I
we often
am.
get. But
Yeah.
we address that therefore up front.
Yeah, no, I love that, and as with all of these things, it's not just on-demand video. It's psychometrics.
Hmm.
It's gamified personality profiling. It's all of this stuff. All of these wonderful technologies, that help automate part of the process. They are built to see more people in a fairer, more consistent way, not to rule people out quicker. Right,
Yeah.
number one. But they are also built to save time for both parties. But it really is down to the organisation. This is like the key learning point that I would want anybody to hear from what you're saying. The key learning point is it's about managing expectations. It's about communicating the reason why, and it's about trying to use it in a really ethical and really thinking about the candidate experience, as opposed to just going boom, just put this bit of technology in,
Yeah.
send it out, and the people that don't want to do it, whatever, they don't want to do it, we
Yeah.
don't want them anymore.
It's often said that communication is key for a lot of things, but and I think, as you said there, that is the crucial thing for any business looking to use it. Is if you get the communications right, you'll see the success out of it. And you mentioned it already, but generally, if somebody completes an on-demand video interview, then and you can assess more people, you'll generally end up with a higher quality interview, and actually your attendance at interview will go up substantially, because there's been a commitment from both sides already, which means that they're
Mm,
more likely to show up. And it's just that's data showing you that. It's not really up for debate. The data is the
mm,
data, kind of thing. But there's always ways to improve it, and we're always
of
open to that.
course.
And we'd always love to hear from candidates on their thoughts, so we can take that on board.
Absolutely, as would we. So look, we've stuck on that subject for a long time, which means we're almost out of time now, Mark. I guess it would be good to sort of round off the conversation with any hints or tips that you've got, either for other TA professionals, that are maybe going into what I would call a hidden brand,
Hmm.
something that has an amazing mission but maybe people haven't heard of,
Hmm.
or candidates that are maybe going through this kind of application
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, well, I mean, on the attraction, and for any, I suppose, talent acquisition professionals out there, again, I said it at the beginning, but I don't think talent attraction, employer. This is me, and this might be controversial. I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think you need millions to sort it out and identify it and go through it. I think you look most, if not all, companies already have mission and values, and it's then just about translating that into more of an emotive message about why it is what we do, and then you get that consistency of what that is in all your content that you use. And then do you know what, you've got to shout about it. If you don't shout about it, people won't know about it. So don't be shy about saying how great it is what your business does and how proud you are of it if you genuinely are, because if you don't say it, people won't know about it, and that's just the modern way. And then again, I just think there's, from a candidate perspective, if this kind of where it crosses over a bit, from us as talent acquisition, we should be being very clear in our job adverts about what it is the business does, because the job advert is where the details should be, and what it is the role entails. And if you've got that and you're reading that, then just obviously there's some roles where CVs won't matter at all. There's some where you just need to make certain you're identifying the key bits at the top. But then, if ever in doubt, ask the question. There's no harm in asking a question from a candidate's point of view. And even just because you haven't done something before or it feels a bit unnerving, I'd always say give everything a crack, once, but ask the questions if you're uncertain. And then I would hope a lot of companies like us do the same, where on the video interviews, actually, we offer the chance to re-record. So just focusing on the on-demand bit, we offer the chance to re-record, because you know what? In an interview, occasionally, like I might well have done in this podcast times, you mess up a bit and you lose your train of thought a bit, but then you just say, do you mind if I just answer that again? And
exactly.
Therefore, by offering the re-record, you're offering a more lifelike and realistic environment. So it's actually, I think, takes the pressure off a bit, which is what you want. You want to set people up for success, not set them up to be tricked up and fail. Yeah,
I totally agree. And I think that's one of the biggest debates we ever have with people that we're onboarding is, how many retakes do you think you should take? Now, well, you don't get a chance to retake an answer in an interview. I'm like, well, no, but you do get the chance to clarify what you said. And if you're an interviewer and you can see potential in somebody, you do get a chance to then go, hey, I think your answer's sort of 50% there. Maybe you could just expand on this point a little bit more. And I can't tell you the number of interviews where I've done that personally. I would guarantee every TA professional has done that. So it's akin to that. Somebody watches it back and goes, actually, that's a 50% answer. I want to clarify that a bit more. Retake, boom, gives the perfect answer. That doesn't mean that they were crap because they retook the answer. It actually means that they were thorough and they just rethought what they said in the first place. So
there might be a debate for how many retakes. There shouldn't be a debate about whether there is a retake, because I think actually in an interview you can ask, you can start asking, and then you can say, actually, do you know what? I think I've got a better example, or actually, could you just repeat the question, because I just kind of forgot what that last element was. So 100% you can do that in an interview. So there shouldn't be a debate on whether you have a retake or not. It's just, do you give 1, 2, 3, 4 unlimited? And that's the debate kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that really depends again on role and stuff. We could go into a rabbit hole here, Mark, so I'm not going to let us. But look, it's been amazing having you on. Thank you so much for investing your time to come on the podcast. In terms of wrapping up, I guess if anybody does want to get in contact with you or with Tunstall, is looking for a job or looking for advice, what's the best way to contact you, and obviously as a candidate?
Yeah, well, the business, nice and simple, recruitment@tunstall.com. Just get in touch with us. Obviously, view our career site if you want as well, uki-careers.tunstall.com. But if you just want to get in touch with us, recruitment@tunstall.com, and myself, you could find me on LinkedIn. Just drop me a message. I'm happy to get in touch. And do you know what? If you've applied for a job with us and you've got some feedback, let me have it. I want to know about it so I can try and improve.
Yeah, amazing. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe and on YouTube, Spotify, etc. And thanks, Mark. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Bye all.